Well, it's taken a little bit of time to get down here, but we are here, Shelter, Busselton, right here in the brewery. We almost lost Skeet down one of the vats yesterday. We're going to cover off on that. We are down here in Busselton. We had a great trip so far. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, Shelter FootyCast. Skeeter, we're not at BackChat Studios. We're at the brewery. How are you?
Oh, absolutely on fire, Sco. This has been an outstanding 24 hours. Let's talk about the facility we're at. We had dinner here last night. The food was brilliant.
Sensational.
But prior to that, yesterday, the beer, the way it's brewed, a lot of educational and enjoyment attached to what is just a super spot. And look, I know you've got a couple of tales up your sleeve, but it has been a fun 24 hours.
We're going to go in depth into Mark Reddings' last 24 hours. It's going to be great here on the Shelter FootyCast. You can follow us on socials, Shelter FootyCast. You can send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us as a podcast. While we are here, I'm not sure if you can see it if you are watching along. You've got the beautiful grass out there. Look, it looks quite manicured, so I don't know if we're going to get you out there on the lawnmower a little bit later on. But Grapes of Mirth is down here next week. Still haven't found out what mirth means, but Grapes of Mirth is... Do you know what mirth means?
Mirth is like fun,
Were you looking at me as... fun and humour.
What is
Mark
mirth?
Redding.
It's mirth. It's a light, bright, enjoyable. I mean,
so grapes and humour. Because that makes sense, because we've got some of Australia's best comedians come down here. Rove McManus is coming down. Merrick Watts, we heard from him on the podcast last week. So that is next week, 11th of March, 2 p.m, Shelter. Get your tickets on the Shelter website. You can find them at grapesofmirth.com.au, Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton. Let's get into it. Big moments of the round. Usually we cover off on, I don't know, there's a big AFL issue, usually maybe a cricket issue. But we've been down here in Busselton finding out what's what. Getting the good stuff down here. So we arrived down here yesterday, here at Shelter, straight on the tools. Like, genuinely, I was here for 5 minutes, and they had me making pizzas down here, the boys from Shelter. We did a competition.
No, it wasn't a competition.
Julian, the chef down here, running a great operation. We had a competition. We absolutely had a competition.
Had an education.
Well, I gave you an education on pizza making. How did you go? If you had to rate it out of 10, your pizza that you put together.
No, mine was average, absolutely. It wasn't flash. I didn't follow the instructions as I should. I didn't put enough sauce on there. It was a debacle. But I freely admit that.
You're blaming your left. You're a left-hander. I learnt that about you yesterday. You're blaming the left-handed. There was right-handed tools around you.
Oh, mate, it was the whole world is made for right-handers. But that's okay. You got the honours in that front. But actually, the way those guys make the pizza with the dough, in all seriousness, they are skilled. And just going downstairs into the kitchen to see, as you liken it to the Formula One workshop when they're up and running, it is a well-oiled machine. And you know that the fact which really stunned me, as the pizzas get put into the conveyor belt, as I like to call it, 90 seconds is all it takes to cook these pizzas.
It's running at 360 degrees in there.
Wow.
It's hot.
Very warm.
It's like a furnace.
Hot in the kitchen.
It was like your skull on the beers last night.
You got the points on the pizza.
Right, so I got the pizza done. We went downstairs, had a brewery tour. We tasted some beer.
Yep.
You were probably a bit more comfortable in that arena around the beers.
No, I enjoyed it. And, Jace gave us a bit of an education on how it all works. And, it was really nice. And we got to test the toxicity or
correct.
No,
it was the temp and grav, the grav and temp.
Gravity.
So that's all good. All right. So I know people listening. Okay, boys. Who really cares? I'll tell you why you care. Next up, we went up on a plane. Zeb took us up. Really, really great fellow. He rocked up. Skeeter was a bit nervous on the way there. I wouldn't
say nervous, but I don't like small planes. I just feel that there's an element for me where if I'm sitting 2B Qantas to Melbourne, I've got the.
You kept talking about business class. I'm not sure if you understood what we were doing here. So we rocked up, and it was a Cessna. It was quite a small one. It was a 4-seater Cessna, and Zeb, our pilot, was on the tarmac pumping up its tyres with a footy pump. So Skeeter was nervous. He then turned to absolute water, started melting and melted his way onto the tarmac. We jumped in. You weren't happy going up. You weren't overly happy up there.
No,
I looked back at you at one stage. I said, Skeeter, look at this beautiful bay we're flying over Busselton, beautiful area. Skeeter's on Sportsbet in the back. He couldn't look out the windows. He's putting punts on the NRL. Didn't even know that was going.
Yeah. No, when we were at 500 feet, it had a sense of calmness, and we can get out of, if we have trouble here, we can just, I don't know why, and we went, and then of course being a smart ass,
shit yourself.
Zeb just decided he wanted to check his phone, so he's gone to reach for his phone. We've done a little nosedive for it felt like about 2 seconds, which is probably about half a second, but in your heart you think, oh, this is not good. So he took the...
What did you think was going to happen?
He took the piss a couple of times doing the old loop and the orbit, so I'm thinking, okay boys, you've had your fun. Dan's sitting next to me, you're like two kids carrying on childishly, and I'm just trying to get back to terra firma.
Yes, well, we did get back to terra firma. I had a great night last night at Shelter Brewery. You got to get down here if you haven't been down here. Skeeter may still be downstairs.
Hang on a second. We stayed here, and Dan and myself, we had got home a little later than you, but you somehow find ways to get home where we sort of struggle.
Yeah, I took a scooter home. I was well under the limit as well. We'll have that. Drink responsibly, ladies and gentlemen. But this morning we came down here again, nice and early, bright and early, up at about 7 o'clock. My 2-year-old child's birthday, Sid.
Yeah, Sid.
Happy birthday, Sid.
Birthday
so opened the presents, which was beautiful on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. We came down here and we jumped off the Jetty skater.
That was fun.
It was good. It was compulsory dick togs.
Yeah.
You got into those, which I was impressed with, but you had a rash vest on.
Well, it's called a rashie. Just a rashie.
It's called a rash vest.
Yeah, obviously.
You have to tell me what it's called. It's called a rash
smart,
vest. I saw you in it. Mate, it was 7 a.m. There's no sun.
It was the ozone layer. No, what the reason I wore it, because my wife and daughter are down here, they said, Dad, if you were doing this jetty jump, need to wear the rashie, because although once you get past 50, or I like to say, you're fabulous 50 fit. Well, my wife says you're 50 and fat, so I just have to wear that. And she said, you're not getting in. You won't come back to the units. We're staying down the road at Aqua, by the way, which is very nice. Unless you wear that rashie when you jump in. So I did that, and a couple of the senior ladies.
Well, so not only do we have your wife and your daughter and your daughter's friend down, but the Busselton Walkers group was out in the Jetty, and they were jumping off too. We had a crowd of about 70 people watching us go off. I got a bit nervous.
Well,
it's a beautiful bunch of ladies.
Oh, they were great ladies.
Big Shelter FootyCast fans.
They were a bit nervous themselves about jumping. What is it, about 3 metres? Is that the...
8, 9, maybe.
Either way, 4 metres. Thank you, Mayor. 4 metres. I'm going to be honest with you. That to me, there's no fear with that. That was just fun.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
You were going to do a backflip.
Yeah.
And then, let's be honest, and you the heart just sort of got a bit tired, but you still decided.
You did a pin drop.
I did a pin drop.
You almost created a tidal wave coming back.
I forgot to shut my mouth and it went all the way down. But you actually decided to invent a sort of an acrobatic move on the way down.
I tried a front flip. I landed on my ass. I did a big belly flop, but on my butt.
That was fun though. It was good fun.
It was good. It's been great down here. Great hospitality from the Shelter boys. But overall, it's just been a great area of WA to come down here. It's great to see.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, there's so much happening. We know that the Jetty, which is an iconic part of Busselton, but the boys are showing us around. Of course, the new airport, I guess you could say, it's taking clients and guests and passengers from one side of the country to another. We've got the Hilton being built across the road. This place is going off, and look, it's there's a lot of good parts down south, but I put this now at the top of my list. And our mate Adam Papalia, who has joined us for a beverage last night, he lives down here.
Busselton local.
Yeah, he does love the area, and I'm sold.
So don't take it from us, though. We do have the mayor in the house, Grant Henley. He's going to jump on the podcast with us shortly, and a couple of lads from the Onshore Cup, which I've got a bit of explaining to do about that. But you are on the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Let's get into some footy. Okay, sort of the real stuff's here. So it's pre-season. We're not at round 1 yet, but we actually had a real pre-season game. Last week it was the match simulation. This week we see the 2 Adelaide teams play the 2 Perth teams. So Port Adelaide defeated by Fremantle, 92 points to 61. What did you take out of that team, Skeeter? We saw them play the week before against Adelaide. What did you like? What didn't you like in that game?
I guess the question is, how much do we read into what we've seen over the past fortnight? Now, the first week was match simulation, which really is, that's hard to get a beat. Last weekend, we have to go on the evidence of 4 quarters and what Fremantle produced in that game. They were very good. I think Port showed enough as well, but if we're looking at Fremantle specifically, there's always a concern once David Mundy departs how Fremantle are going to cope on that front. Of course, Rory Lobb in attack, so how's their forward line going to operate? Well, when you put the likes of Will Brodie getting a lot of touches, 36 I think it was.
And more minutes in the midfield.
More minutes. Brayshaw doing what he does, Sarong, and Jager O'Meara is who's a little quiet to start on Friday, or Thursday, and then just showed that he's going to be a really important part of that Fremantle link. They're defensively, they look really well served.
Really good.
Yeah, there's never a question about it.
Port Adelaide kicked 5 goals in the first 3 quarters. So defensively, Fremantle looked really solid, and it was actually a more defensive game than it was the week before. The week before, it was a flowing game against Adelaide, and even the West Coast Port Adelaide game was up and back. This one started how we probably expect Fremantle to actually play. High defensive, teamwork. And then you're right. The 2 questions are, how does the midfield work? It worked beautifully. Sean Darcy absolutely dominated Scott Lycett in the ruck. He was outstanding. I'd be locking him into dream teams and super coaches all around the country. He looked very, very good, Sean Darcy. Their midfield of Brayshaw, Brodie, Sarong, Jager O'Meara. They've got some other guys rolling through there as well. Top notch.
And Jordan Clark from half that run and carry.
He looks up for a big year.
He looked really good. And of course, you get down to the main man. He is now the main man.
Right. So the forward line is the question. It's actually the question for both Fremantle and West Coast. How do they work? You've got to kick goals to win games of footy, right? And in West Coast case, you've got to get the ball inside 50. So Fremantle, they defended well. They had some good attacking plays. They transferred the ball quite well. They were actually quite slow at stages, which again probably is what we've come to see over Freo the last 12 months. But they had Nat Fyfe up there, and it was, will he function as a forward as he sort of has been, portraying in the media a little bit? Well, the answer is yes. He looked outstanding. I watched really closely. I was boundary riding for Fox Footy. I was watching him for a full quarter, just him. He moved like a forward, looked like a forward, smelt like a forward. Nat Fyfe, ladies and gentlemen, look, I've heard some Coleman medal odds are coming
slashed.
Very, very.
They're winding in the market.
They're winding him right in. I don't know if he can win the Coleman.
How many goals do you think he'll kick this year?
From what I saw, mate, if he can have a Taberner, a Tracy, a Jackson around him, so he doesn't have to be the main guy, but if he can have those guys around and they can, share the load a bit, he can easily kick 50 goals. Easily.
You take 40.
You 100% you take 40. If he can kick almost 2 goals a game, that's a huge return as a key forward, because that's what he's going to be playing as. So he played deep in the goal square. He played high as a centre forward, as a link guy. So not only was he doing the real tight forward stuff, he was getting up the ground and being that exit for their defence, and getting the long diagonal runs going. Look, he looked as much as a forward as I've ever seen him in his career. I've been a big supporter of Fyfe playing in midfield. He's a 2-time Brownlow medalist. Why wouldn't you? Well, right now, they don't need a midfielder. They need a forward. And what he produced is excellent. The only thing I'm worried about is now people know. And, he was the most dangerous forward by a long way. So he's getting the number 1 defender round 1. That will happen,
but
no
that
doubt.
Was, irrespective of what we saw, he was still going to get the best defender.
I think, I guess what I was saying the other week, if Matty Taberner can get himself in some sort of form, you'd have to put your best defender on him because he's size. Like Nat Fyfe's only 193. He's not a key position size. He's a big midfielder and he can bully midfielders. But if you put a Tom Jonas or you put a big fullback on him, I don't think he's pushing any key defenders around. So you need a big Matty Taberner or a Josh Tracy to take that big key defender.
So Fremantle, 31-point win, thrashed by the Crows the week before. Before we get to the Eagles and whether you've got any misgivings about what you think might happen this year with them, we've never taken too much credence from what we see from practice matches or scratch matches. Should that change this year?
No. I mean, I was saying on the car on the way here, I think it's a really interesting thing with one pre-season game. You spend a whole pre-season 2-3 months going and you get one real chance at 4 quarters with your best team in. If you don't play well, so Port Adelaide I don't think played exceptionally well over here in the West. They would have question marks going into round 1. So they're going to be still trying to figure things out in round 1, whereas years gone by, we get 2-3 cracks at it. By the 3rd pre-season game, you at least, I think, know. Like we're going to be challengers, or we need to work on this, or we're very good at this. Port Adelaide will have more questions than answers coming out of this. Fremantle probably will too. So it makes it interesting for the first sort of 5 weeks of the season. Everyone's probably still going to be trying to work a lot of things out. So if you can start really well and you can be up and firing that first 5-6 weeks and you can get a lot of wins on the board. So I think Freo's going to win their first 6 games, be sitting on the top of the ladder after round 6. If you can do that,
sets up the season.
I think you're going very close to top 4.
Yeah, and you look, conversely, last year, Port Adelaide 0-5. They recovered, but you're playing too much catch-up. So you're right, the first month of the season, it's not going to make or break, but you can't win a flag in March, April, but you can certainly fall off the contender list.
Overall, Freo looked very good. Their midfield's outstanding. Their back line, I think, is the best in the business, and their forward line functioned, and that was without Luke Jackson. So get excited for our fans. Flag battle time. Absolutely flag battle time. Now, West Coast defeated by Adelaide. Almost said defeated Adelaide. Well, it certainly wasn't that. 111-52. They were absolutely smashed in the first half of this game. 6 or 7 goals to nothing in the first quarter.
20 inside 50s to 5 in the first. That's just
at one stage it was 16-1.
It's ridiculous.
And halfway through the third quarter, West Coast had 14 inside 50s to Adelaide's 50 something. So you are not going to win one game in AFL football if you produce that.
So you were there.
So the questions are why.
You were there. Was it like watching the 2022 version of the Eagles? Were there similarities or issues that were addressed or certainly seen last year that have not been addressed as yet, or certainly the coaching staff haven't got the answers, nor the players?
I'll tell you how the game went. Now, we'll start with some negatives, but there really was some positives as well. But then the negatives were they got smashed out of centre bounce to start with. So they had Kel Jamieson rucking one out against,
Riley O'Brien's
a good ruckman. They had a backup ruckman as well. Josh Rotham was playing backup ruck for West Coast, which, remember when we did the waffle game, he played, so he was, Josh was competing, but Josh is 192
He's a
centimetres.
stopgap
Yeah.
measure.
Bailey Williams pulled out in the eve of the game, and obviously no Nick Natanui. So it does show how thin they are at ruck. That I don't think they had anything, and they don't want to play Oscar Allen there either. They just do not want to do that. So look, they were exposed there. They gave some young guys some mid minutes. So people like Yo, Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly had 4 touches at 3/4 time, something like that. So they weren't in the game. Now, whether or not they played, exactly how they're going to play with, I would think Elliot Yeo playing a lot of mid minutes. I don't know if it was exactly that. They were, sharing the load a little bit, but they were smashed in all aspects. Adelaide defended really well. They set up well behind the ball. They won the ball back. They turned inside 50s that they didn't score into multiple entries, so in plays. Adelaide did everything right and West Coast did everything wrong. Now, come the second half, they started getting some momentum back. As the intensity lifted, the better West Coast looked. So, as tackling went up, as the physicality at stoppage went up, as aerial contests went up, West Coast looked better and better. It was almost, the start of the game was almost like this is a practice game, and they came out after half time and looked like they were really in a real AFL game, and they looked really good like that. But with the handbrake on, they looked poor.
You've been involved where your team has been given a touch-up in a pre-season match. Yep. Obviously, most players have. Adam Simpson, try and put yourself in what he would have been like either at half-time or the end of the game, given that there's no points lost, no one's any wiser as to how you're going to go against North Melbourne in round 1, but would he be sitting in his coach's room worried, or is it?
It's all mental. So, like I say a fair bit, every team's got talent. There's a lot of good players playing AFL. It's mentally how you can, one, understand your game plan, 2, execute it, but then stay on top of it inside the game. And I just think West Coast will have more questions than answers, and they won't know what sort of team they are coming into round 1. So they're gonna take a few weeks to figure that out. They kept trying to play quick early, so I've spoken about it a bit in the pre-season. They're trying to speed up their ball movement. Adelaide were defending really well. They kept going for it, kept trying to turn it into quick play. They had 3 or 4 really easy turnovers, skill errors, which that's what happens when you play good defensive sides.
Well, that's what we saw last year at Optus Stadium. I think it was against Sydney, Richmond. I think a couple of games I remember that they really tried to take the game on. You knew it wasn't their natural style, but Simpson had said to them, boys, let's try to match, and it went to...
Ideally, they've practiced that the entire pre-season. Yeah. So, the really difficult one for West Coast is do you keep persisting with that? And I think they have to. If that's what they want to do and that's what they want to be known as, they have to have the fortitude to go, we're just going to keep doing it, and we may lose games, but you won't get better by stopping. You need to actually commit to it and double down, just like I'm doing with West Coast.
I'm about to ask you this. Have you copped any, and look, they haven't lost a game yet, but have you copped anything on social media?
A bit of feedback.
A bit of feedback about your bold prediction of them finishing in the 8 this year?
It's always good getting direct feedback on social media because it comes from people that haven't made any predictions themselves. And it's like, oh, how's your prediction going, Scully? Or tell us this and that. I don't think it's that outrageous for West Coast to still make finals. They played like shit against Adelaide, to be honest. But I think they were doing some different things, maybe. But what the worrying things are, they couldn't execute under real pressure at stages. So that's an issue because you can't just click your fingers and start doing that. You need to keep going. But yes, I'm doubling down. West Coast will play finals. You've heard it here second here on the Shelter FootyCast because I said it here first. You got to, mate. What do you want me to do?
No,
you want me to backpedal and say, oh no, I've seen one practice game and they're not going to. No, I'm doubling down.
If you're going to make a bold prediction, that's bold. That is. Yeah. And it's like me saying.
You got any bold predictions?
Well, I thought Gold Coast might be a riser this year. I'm hoping that's the case. So I think they can play in the finals if things go well for them. Yeah. Having
a chat to your wife and daughter, maybe a bold prediction would be, Mark Reddings changes a couple of light globes around the house this year. That would be a bold prediction, wouldn't it?
No, well, I've shown him. Paul was with me today as I was helping you set up, and I got no idea and that's why I'm not that excited about jumping on a lawnmower.
Anxiety coming into Bunnings, I believe.
Yeah, I get anxiety going to Bunnings. I get anxiety doing anything.
Bit of trouble putting the garden hose together the other week.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble in that front. What you suddenly Tim the handyman? Hey?
Tim the toolman Taylor.
Yeah,
I'm more that guy that puts his head over the neighbour, pipes up and talks a bit of shit over the fence. What's that? Yeah, Wilson. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much, Dan. And you're like Dickie Knee. We learnt last night, didn't we? Who was calling him Dickie Knee?
Well, that was me. Only because he was getting annoying. He'd been drinking a little bit too.
Roll and shut your mouth.
And he spilled a drink all over Adam Papalia.
Yeah, we do apologise to head of 6PR Football, Fox Footy commentator, one of the best in the business. Copped a full drink over his lap. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, and we tried to go to another establishment, only briefly, at the end of the night. And
how'd that go?
We didn't get in.
I thought maybe to get in, I might have said, I've got my dad here from down up in Perth. We brought him down for the weekend, just showing him around.
Well, as you wander around the streets of Busselton on a scooter.
Well, that's yet to be confirmed. I don't believe that happened. The positive things on the West Coast front, if we get back to football, thank you, Dan. You probably could have pressed that button a few more times, I reckon. Positive, Ruben Jimby.
Good.
Yeah.
7 clearances, I think 14 plus touches here.
Yeah, and it's honestly, he could have had 30 touches, he could have had 10 touches. It was his cleanliness.
But what about the physicality that he showed?
And he was really physical. Had this one 50-50 contest, ball in the middle.
Didn't flinch at all.
Mate, we went harder. And he had another contest in the middle of the ground where he spoilt it, picked it up. He just lacked a tiny bit of polish on a couple of kicks. But honestly, get him in the system for a year and he hits that every time. He just looks really good. I was really impressed with Campbell Chesser. I know some people say he had a quiet game, but he just looked like a footballer, looked like a young footballer. I think they've got to get games into him. They can't keep playing guys that they've been given chances to. They need to get these guys playing, and they've just got to play them. And they've got to tell them that they're going to get played. Don't worry about getting dropped. Jimby, Chesser, they didn't play Noah Long, which I was surprised with. He was very quiet the week before. So all those surprises you can understand. I don't know if I was probably firming for him to get a berth round one, but
he might be slightly an outsider now.
And Luke Shuey, some midfield minutes.
Yeah, but you still expect him to play more down back. But I suspect there's going to be a couple of debutants against North.
Now, that pretty much brings us to the end of the Freo West Coast wrap-up. We won't go through the other games because we do have some wonderful guests in, we call this a studio? in Brewery with us, in Shelter Brewery. Skeet, you're going to step away from the microphone. Before you leave, you got any final thoughts, anything you want to wrap up with either football or,
No, I think
general life?
Know your role and shut your mouth.
I will say this. The question will come at midday today.
Yes.
Whether we crack one of these, because it was a lovely night last night, so just whether the body's going to be able to back up and go again.
I think we get you to do a sour review, a proper one. Yeah. Not a sales pitch. I want taste.
You should do it. My wife, Victoria, because she's a fan. She doesn't drink beer.
She doesn't drink beer, but she drinks this.
She like that. She, the first time, apart from being in Bali, have the old Bintam, but she's the one that's probably, and looks slightly better than me.
Tom from marketing, I hope you're taking notes, mate. You just paid for itself right there. My wife doesn't drink beer, but she drinks this. There you go. Shelter FootyCast, Skeeter, it's been a pleasure. You're going to piss off now. And Grant Henley, the Mayor of Busselton, stepping in. Thank you very much. Now, we are down here at the Busselton Brewery, and we've had a great time. As you can hear, Skeeter's sipping on his waters, going well. Grant, come in, mate. Dan will come and set you up a little bit, just make sure he's all sorted. It's been a fantastic way to look around the city. We've seen the jetty, we've been up in the plane, we've been in the kitchen. But I want to talk about the city now. And Grant, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us along.
No worries. So you're the mayor of Busselton. I want to start with, what is that? Do you have the keys to the city, or you get a big sash, or what does the mayor of Busselton do?
A bit of bling that you pull out, sort of save it for some pretty special occasions like making New Australians, which is a really great part of my job.
Right.
But generally representing the city at events, and as well as our general business through council, and trying to balance developing this wonderful area and retaining the character that makes it so special.
Now, we'll get into the city and tell us about some of the features in a little bit, but I do want to this is a footy podcast, a Shelter FootyCast. I want to talk to you first about something we spoke about here. I think we brought it into national mainstream media. The mayor of Bunbury was carrying on a little bit, and he was saying that they want I guess it would be the 20th licence in the AFL, now that Tasmania has effectively been granted the 19th. Do you want to write a reply? Look, I've had some birdies in my ear saying that perhaps there is some murmurings around the Busselton Stingers. That's what I've heard, Grant. Anything to talk about there?
Yeah, I think you guys might have squashed a few stingers this morning, jumping in off the jetty. Very brave of you. A little cooler this morning. Look, in all seriousness, it is a concept, I guess, and as a proud Tasmanian by birth, I'm proud to hear the 19th team and seeing some of those great Tasmanians the opportunity to play at home, and yeah, sure, the guys in the southwest, and we're seeing some great local talent now. James Tunstall at Brisbane, Jai Amos, of course, in Freo, and
Reuben Jimby from down.
Reuben Jimmy is from Dunsbury. Yeah, great family down here. So seeing those young guys come through shows there is a lot of talent. I'm not sure we could fill up a 20th team just yet, but I'm sure there'd be plenty of people who'd love to locate down here.
Just humour me for a little bit, Graham. I mean, we've got the airport down here. We've got the brewery. We've got the ovals. We've got the people. We've got the fans. I mean, sure, there's not much else you need down here for a 20th team in Busselton.
Well, I think so, yeah. And the Stingers or the Stingrays or whatever we call them.
The Shelter Stingrays? Is that what it is?
Shelter Stingrays, yeah. A bit of corporate stayed in there, yeah. Could be a real goer. And, flights coming straight in from the eastern seaboard, and people coming down to watch the newest licence.
But Busselton, in all seriousness, it's going from strength to strength as a city. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on down here? I flew from Busselton to Melbourne over Christmas. It was unreal, straight into the airport. A lot of things happening down here.
Yeah, certainly the airport's been fantastic for local people to get away through Melbourne as a hub to anywhere. But also, we're looking in the future to international flights and flights to other destinations in Australia. But it's been great to bring people directly in and give them, on weekends like these, long weekends, opportunities for a trip out of Melbourne where they don't have that 6-hour round trip to Perth, and makes it a really attractive and viable destination, and we're really marketing that. It's been hugely successful.
Yeah, and it's a big part of the wine region down here. Obviously, in a brewery right now, there's a lot of events in venues and things to do. Not just for adults, but the family as well, right?
Our investment in the foreshore was really based on making a family-friendly venue. So we've got the shelter here, obviously, for mum and dad, but we've got a fantastic award-winning playground there for the kids.
That's unreal, that playground. It's the best ever.
The skate bowl and youth precinct for the older kids, and obviously the beach, and that is a wonderful experience. And we've got some wonderful eateries and recreation venues down on the foreshore for everyone in the family to come down and enjoy themselves. And building some more accommodation, and there's diversity in accommodation. There's something from a powered site on a tent 200 metres from the beach through to Hilton Hotel in the future. So something for everyone.
The AFL's been doing a fair bit around regional games. They're playing Ballarat at stages. We've seen the Tasmanian sort of experiment turn into what that's turned into. Could you see an AFL game down here in Busselton? Do you think it's viable to do that? I know the Stingers is a bit of a hope and a dream, but what about a game?
Yeah, definitely. We're looking at with some interest at what's happening in South Australia this year, and the AFL's look to expand into multiple venues in a single location. And we really think with our airport network that we're a definite chance in the southwest to host an AFL game in a future round where they get all the teams together. I can't remember what they call it now.
Gather round.
Gather round.
It's an absolutely horrid name.
Marketing nightmare. But no, we'd love to see that hosted in the southwest and through Busselton. We think it'd be a great place to hold it.
And lastly, do you get down to Shelter a bit? You love it down here with Shelter FootyCast. You've got to promote Shelter, surely. It's beautiful.
You know when you put your things in your calendar and it pops up with locations. My first one is the council offices. The second one is Shelter.
What about home? Third?
That's third, yeah.
Unreal, mate. Grant, thanks for coming and having a chat with us, mate. Anything else you can tell listeners and sound off on Busselton?
Look, Busselton is a great place to come and visit and enjoy, and you're always welcome to come down here. And we just look forward to keeping people coming down here and respecting the country and having a lovely time while they're down here.
Unreal. Thank you, Grant.
Pleasure, Sco. Thank you.
Great chatting to you, mate. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Grant Henley, the Mayor of Busselton, and the Shelter FootyCast. There we go. We've got all the big stars coming in here today. Now, these next two couple of guests, as they make their way in, come over, fellas. Soon you get. We've got the Onshore Cup, boys. Now, what is the Onshore Cup, I hear you ask? Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute ball terror of a competition. The lads here, couple, I believe, look, I'm going to ask them in a segment. I believe it's a full-back and a full forward from the last few grand finals. So, look, we're going to have them sitting next to each other. Dan, I hope we've got our security guards here. Mark Reddings is out the back putting some punts on. And you maybe get a lanyard on maybe and come in here and separate these two if we need to. The Onshore Cup, we've got Terry Allen and Dennis Amore. Is that right, boys? Thank you very much. It's a league down here in the southwest. It's every 2 weeks, I believe. It's a 2-week type setup so we can get the FIFO lads in. Season 2023, not too far away. Round 1 kicking off 18th of March. Boys, am I about the mark? What's the league look like?
It's a strong comp. I think we've got an amazing product, if that makes sense. We play every second week. There's some really good talent down here that plays. And obviously, wives and girlfriends are getting stroppier and harder on husbands. So, for everyone to be able to play every second week, it works a bit better and it's a bit family orientated. And we've got guys from 18 years old to 40. So, strong comp. Good fun. Plenty of beers after. Good old shoey after the game for the best on ground.
Wow, great. Responsibly.
Sponsored by Shelter. Yeah. It's all good.
Who's the backman, who's the forward out of you two? Wait, should I guess?
Yeah, have a crack.
Shit, I don't know. You both look like backmen, so I take that as a badge of honour. I'm going to go forward backman.
No.
Oh, shit. Yeah, okay. So, tell the listeners who's the forward, who's the back.
I'm the forward, Dennis. Yep.
Dennis is the forward.
And
Terry's the fullback. Now, is it right to say that you've play off in different teams and you've been grand final opponents?
Plenty of times. Plenty of times.
How long does the season run for?
At the moment, it's sort of 10 to 12 round game.
Yep.
So, strong comp. What's that, 6 months?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we normally finish before the finals and stuff for footy, so you can watch that as well and have beers.
Great. Who do you both play for? I'm looking through these list of names here. Augusta, Abalones, we've got the Dunsborough Muleys, not the Mullies. Not the Mullies. The Buoyant Up Boars, that's my favourite. The Busselton Bombers, the Dally Up Eagles. Who are you boys playing for?
I'm on the Muleys.
Yeah, and I'm Bombers.
Yep.
Unreal.
Yep. I'm coaching and playing this year.
How does that go?
We'll see. I tried it a bit last year and we lost the grand final, so...
I mean, full-back coaching, that's got to be a...
Well, I'll be half forward flank this year.
Yes, okay, nice. And who won last year? Who's the best teams in the comp? What are you boys expecting?
We won last year. We had a good grand final, won by, it'll be 8-9 goals. Yeah, it was a bit of a good game for us for a change. Can say this is my 19th year of playing in the Onshore Cup.
Holy shit.
So I've been on the wrong end of plenty of grand finals against the Muleys. I think they won 13 in a row when I first started. So they, so it was good to, I'm claiming that I kicked the winning goal, but it wasn't. It was
that was your own goal, wasn't it?
It was my only goal. Yeah. But to kick the winning goal, the 10th 10th goal in the grand final, put it over the back fence into the bay was good.
Look, I know all about doing things in grand finals that I just tell everyone that it was just because of me that we won it, but it wasn't really. I do that on a daily occurrence, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the wife was watching at that time, but I still tell her that it was the winning goal. Yeah, and I'll tell the kids it was the winning goal.
It had opened up by the end of it.
Yeah, is it good for the families and stuff, kids and wives and stuff?
Yeah, they're all encouraged to come down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is, after the game, we stay at the supporting team, the home team, have a feed, have a couple of beers, talk some football, and all, wives, girlfriends, kids, friends, everyone comes along. You can usually get, half a ground of people, so it's a good atmosphere.
How long's it been going for? You've been playing for 19 years. Oh, really?
Yeah, so it'd be 35, 40 years.
Started in the 80s. It was more, I think it was Yelling up in Dunsborough that it actually started at, and it was called the Onshore Cup because when the Onshore come in, they couldn't serve, so they played footy instead. So
that's great. So it's been going since the 80s.
Yeah.
How good's that? What do you see for this year, boys? So it's sponsored by Shelter. Who's got the favouritism coming into 2023?
Oh, if you look at social media, you'd have to have a look at the Boars, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I reckon they're my team, to be really honest. I cast my eye across them, and the Buoyant Up Boars, they're just drawn to them.
They do social media really well. I don't think they've stopped training since last year. I don't think they've won a game in about 8 years, so they're probably due a couple of wins. They've gone out and got themselves a coach and a lot of players. So, Terry's probably going to struggle the hardest this year they've got a sort of a new South West League team coming in, so he's going to probably be the hardest done by for players.
Is there like a marquee player? Like who's the Chris Judd of the competition? Is there anyone who used to play AFL or like a waffle or is everyone just genuine punters?
Oh no, they're genuine AFL quality. What we've got, there'd be 6 or 8 teams of AFL players. I think every club's got some guys that could clearly play South West League and some of those sort of leagues. Muleys have had really good guys that have Mick Sherry and those guys that have been Hayward medalists. We've had some guys that are really fit, healthy guys. It's a strong comp.
The Vass Kackers. Is that right?
Yeah, formerly Capel Kackers.
The
I started
Kackers.
playing with them.
Right. What's a Kacker?
It's like a small marron.
Baby crayfish, isn't it? Baby crayfish.
Is it baby crayfish?
Boys, we appreciate you coming down here. You spend a bit of time down here at Shelter as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. Outdoor shower sour was the one.
Hey, there we go. Yeah. While we're on sours I feel like they've come out of nowhere a little bit. Mark Reddings is still trying to discover what that is.
I can't stand them. I'm an XPA man.
XPA is good, and you're a sour man. Boys, thank you very much. Good luck for the season.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Remind me again, the Buoyant Up Boars, that's who I'm going for, Busselton Bombers, and the Muleys. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, boys. Appreciate it. Shelter FootyCast.
Thanks.
Skeeter, might get you back in here to round things off. Will Schofield and the boys, Shelter FootyCast. Thank you very much, fellas. Very good work. Look, Skeeter, I reckon as you come back into set here, I think you and I might be able to get a bit, maybe a bit of a run around with the boys. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I've done too many calves and hamstrings since...
You were showing your scar from your ACL back in the day.
Yeah, at 15 I had an knee, Rico. 15.
You were telling me you're AFL bound. And
no,
ACL.
I said I had a very ordinary career that was tragically cut short.
It's a big scar.
It's a big scar.
It's like they replaced your whole knee.
Yeah, no, that's 1985. In all seriousness, guys, going back to that era, Paul Salmon had I think 3 or 4. Lee Walker, I did a bit of work with at the Footy Commission, I think had 4. And, of course, David Ox, Schwartz, I think he had 3 or 4 himself. So, back in the day, they're pretty... Jacko had them, Woosha.
Yes.
That's, the scars certainly wasn't... the keyhole surgery was not even thought of back then, Scully.
I think we're about wrapped up down here, Skater. I think we're going to...
It's been an absolute blow. And again, to the boys who've looked after us at Shelter, it has been just quality from the get-go. Hospitality's been great. So, in all sincerity, if you get the chance to come down to this part of the world, which is a great spot, then if you don't stop here... the bit of music's starting to jump up as well.
Is that your autograph table getting set up downstairs?
I'm into selfies now, Scully.
Wow.
No, I might have a couple of shelters this afternoon. Sunday session, public holiday. Oh,
very
giddy up.
Good. Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. That's where to find us. Give us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. Send us an email. I want to read some of them out. That'd be great. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us a podcast. Been a pleasure here from Shelter Brewing Co. down in Busselton. We'll be back at BackChat Studios next week. We'll see you then.